Welcome to the Grand Shorts, a part of the Grand Podcast. The Grand. My name is Niels Tudor-Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grand. The Grand is an independent, non-commercial podcast initiative with the ambition to dig into all corners of the EU R&D funding system on topics of interest for the full EU R&D funding community. This is the second out of the 3 first episodes of The Grand Shorts, my new short format. I zoom in on my time in the Danish Agency for Science, Technology and Innovation, and you have just listened to a general introduction to that work. In this second episode, I zoom in on my role as national contact point. The episode focuses on how you, as a beneficiary, can get support from the national contact points, and it is divided into 4 short chapters explaining the main elements: guidance on Horizon Europe, intellectual property rights, meetings you can request, and the information activities that the national contact points they do. Please enjoy. The Grand. Welcome to the Grand Shorts, the new The Grand podcast format. This is the second episode out of 3 here in the beginning. I have chosen to release 3 short episodes in this first part of the concept. So that's how I will try to roll it over the next period to see how that flows with once a month. I will release 3 episodes at a time that has certain connection together. And you have just listened to the first one, which was me sketching out how my first job within this sector, what that was as an NCP and program committee member, as a head of unit in the Danish Agency for Science, Technology and Innovation. Now, this next 2 episodes connected to the first one, I will zoom in on the NCP role, National Contact Points role, and in the last one in this 3 connected episodes, I will zoom in on the program committee role. So, welcome. So, I've just shared with you a little bit about the work I was doing as an NCP in my first job. Now, what I want the focus in this episode about the NCP role and the program committee role. I want the focus on these 2 roles to be how you can use it as a beneficiary. So, of course, NCPs and program committee members, they are welcome to listen in. But it is, of course, also supposed to be an episode that is helpful for people who would like to apply, who are sitting out there and using the system. So it's sort of giving you an idea what you can use the function for as a beneficiary. So in short, this will be a 20-25 minute episode, and over the next 20 minutes, I will shape this out in 4 subparts. There will be shortly on the role as guidance on Horizon Europe, what that is. Then there will be shortly about the IPR part of the NCP role. Then on the meetings, bilateral meetings, beneficiary meetings that you have as an NCP, and then finally on the information activities. So let's just hit right at it at the first part here, guidance on Horizon Europe. So the NCPs in a section, a department, it will be assigned different programs on the Horizon Europe that you are responsible for. So the NCP department, they're supposed to cover everything, cover all programs. Now, so what you can use, what is good for you as a beneficiary is that you can always contact the department that is in charge of the NCP function and get the person who is dealing with the specific program area, sector you're dealing with. Because that I can share with you, when I was an NCP, one of the first things I was asked to do when I was starting was that I was supposed to sit down and read, because it is the responsibility of the NCPs to actually, at least in Denmark, to know your work program. So it was part of my work to sit down, bog down, and read and read and read and read and read and take notes and read again, find out what things meant, find out what was the meaning, know your work program. So this was one of the core parts of the knowledge side of the NCP rule. That is that person. So even if the person is new and doesn't know everything about the core program that is within your sector, they need to be able to find out. And why is that important? That is important because if someone is approaching the national contact points and they have a project idea within their sector, be it the bioeconomy, if it's a manufacturing company, if it's a ICT company, and so on, software company, they come with a question about, can I get funding somewhere? And it is your role as NCP to be able to find out exactly, also in detail, what calls could fit for what you're doing. It's not, might be more calls that are available, and it is your role as an NCP to find those places. And the more you know, the less time you need to spend to dig in and find and search before you can get back to the beneficiary. And this, the longer in the, like in the beginning of the work program release, you have less knowledge, and in the end of it, you sort of know everything, or you know a lot when you get a request in. You know where you go. Yeah, you sort of mapped it yourself. But this is an important information that you know this. To add to this, the knowledge that they have is that they are themselves involved in. Often the NCPs are also involved in the program committee work, and I'll get back to that in the third episode in this 3-step episode shorts. In that work, they get the knowledge behind. So they have knowledge of a context. So they are very good resources when it comes to this. So that's knowledge of the program and being able to search and find the call that is good for you. Then what they also do under this guidance on Horizon Europe, they have the connection to the commission, so they can go to the responsible departments that are responsible for the work program section, but also down to call text responsibility and check on interpretations of call text. So call text can be very specific, and they can be sometimes quite difficult to understand. And this is even difficult to understand for people who've been working with it for their career like me. Sometimes you need to understand what is behind it, because what I can tell you is that everything that is written in a call text has been developed over a long time. So that text is not a coincidence. Everything there has been thoroughly thought through. So if you don't understand, then you need someone to help you to find out exactly what is meant. And there it's sometimes needed to contact the commission to understand and get a background explanation on what it is. Then the NCP function is also helping with your application. And that's back when I was working there, that's a long time ago, from 2008 to 10, we were actually reviewing proposals. They don't do that anymore, but you might find countries where the NCP function includes this. So that means that you can send them your draft proposal, and then they run through it and give you comments and corrections and so on, or on how you might be able to improve it. What definitely NCPs can do, they can tell you about the scope of your idea. So this is something that was ringing all along. That was a word I learned when I started myself in NCP, the scope. So what's the scope? Is the idea within the scope? So this is what you need to. The NCP is an interpreter for your idea to say, look, we would like to apply for this call, and we have this project idea, and then the NCP is supposed to be the devil's advocate and look at the idea and look at the call text. So you're a little off here. So if you follow this through, then you're probably not going to get the funding. This is very important because it's in the early stage. So the NCP function here is actually it can save you a lot of time, and they can save you a lot of time also going to moving you towards another call that is fitting better, or say, look, there might be not something now, but I know that next call round or next year, we are sketching something that fits this. So that will come up. So this is a very valuable help and very important. Now let's move to the IPR. So all NCP departments throughout Europe that has the function, you have people there with the responsibility on the legal matters, financial status, budget, and so on. So here, that person, in my old work, we had two, and they knew everything about patent and IPR issues. So this is quite important, especially for technology, for the technology projects and calls, where there's private companies that have a technology solution. It's the first thing that they start to discuss about in the consortium. That's the patent and IPR. So who's going to get what? So this can be complex because they are collaboration projects. So here they need to find an agreement. So here they need some guidance. There's some guidance of principles. There's some laid out in the framework program background documents on the IPR. And the IPR, these NCPs, they can guide you through this. So that is very, very valuable. Also, often it's also the same person that can tell you about the financial status of your organization. The financial status, it can have an influence on your status in the partnership or in the consortium. It might also have it on the funding rate. It's not so important anymore because they sort of watered it out. So if your company, it's SME, be an SME or large industry, doesn't have the same importance anymore, but it can be. There might still be some corners where this is an issue. That's important. And then they can also help you with the budget. So budget issues. So how to calculate your budget, because the table can be complex to look at. So, and there are some principles there, and some sort of a standard Horizon Europe Pillar 2 project, for instance. There might be, that can be simple, fairly simple to adjust, but then sometimes you might add some budgetary issues where things get complex. If you have to take a loan, if you have to buy equipment, and what is the depreciation on how does that affect the funding rate, and so on and so forth. And here you definitely need some guidance. And if you don't have a consultant, can't afford that, then here at least you can get guidance on how to approach that. Also, I almost forgot. Also here, IPR, you might also get some help on consortium agreement, because you also have some legal issues there. So they might be able to help you also in relation to this. Now, that's that. Third element that the NCPs are helping with or doing, they take meetings, bilateral meetings, so you can book them. So to have a talk, sit down face to face or online meetings, and run through what you want to do. So it can be on all levels. You can be an organization that we've heard about Horizon Europe. What is it? Can you tell us? Or we are working with this and we would like to understand how to approach this, to see if it's something for us. Or you might be in the other end of the scale. You have a solid idea, you've done it before. There's still some issues you want to talk about with the team, or with one or two of the NCPs on how to work with it. You might be a company that are very strong with the technology, and you maybe tried it once before in another corner, funding corner, nationally funding, you might have tried, but then you want the guidance on how to move into this. It can be many things. Many things. Most important things, you can take those meetings and they can help you through and guide you further on. And meetings, for instance, I had but for instance, a startup. Just to give an example, I had a startup meeting with a startup. He's doing well now. I've seen over and that's 15 years ago. But he was doing a mobility device for personal transport, a little bit like a bike, something like this. But I had a meeting with him back then in 2008 because he needed funding for SMEs, and I was guiding him on how I was reading through his idea, scoping, as I just mentioned, the scope of the idea, how does it fit. He had applied before, but he didn't get funding, so we were looking through the evaluation summary report and see what did they mention that he needed to improve, and so on and so forth. It's very important for anybody to understand that this is something that's possible to do, bilateral meetings of any sort. Also, it can be physically in the organization, but also drove out. the country. I went to these kind of meetings. I was in Copenhagen, so I was going to meetings in the vicinity of Copenhagen, sometimes a little bit away. That happened. So that's that. Finally, and that's a fairly big chunk of the work that you do as an NCP, information activities. So this is very important for you and how you can use the NCPs, because they come out. They do webinars. So if you are attached to the LinkedIn profile of the NCP organization of your country, they will list them there when they have webinars. I know the Danish NCPs are doing that on a regular basis, and I also see the Germans and the Belgians, and in my flow in LinkedIn, different kind of information activities on the internet. Then, of course, also physical meetings, especially has boosted a little bit after Corona here. So there's a continuously flow of information meetings. Network activities, that's also part of what they do. So they make sure that people can meet. They can make different kinds of thematic meetings under different work programs, and collaborating maybe with I've just seen that Circular Biobase Europe, they come to Copenhagen in connection with this, of course, inviting the beneficiaries within the bioeconomy and circular economy to come, both for informing about the work program and possibilities, but also networking. That's natural. Courses and trainings for, I remember myself having been involved in training for a research team at the Technical University of Denmark. It's a good example. So there was a research team. I don't remember which corner of Technical University of Denmark it was, but it can be any, right? So, but it was a team. I think there were around 20 people, and we were then guiding them on, let me see, a proposal. I think there was a new proposal template from the commission, and we were then taking them through the template and what to make sure to include under excellence, under impact and implementation, these three parts of the proposal. So sort of being the prolonged arm of the commission, so to say, information on how to do this. So this is also what I mentioned in the beginning with the fact that you need to read a lot as an NCP to understand what's in there. So it's not only on the cold content, but it's also on the conditions on how to approach. You have to know this by the fingers. You have to know it when you wake up. If you wake up 2:00 in the morning, you need to tell the eligibility criteria for Horizon Europe on the different conditions and so on. So all these things is part of how to guide. And so on these courses, you will take people through these things. It can also be courses on coordination, for instance, coordinator courses, because it's a priority of most countries in the EU when on this. On the research part in EU, that you get more coordinators. I know from Danish part at least, that is a likely scenario to that making courses specific elements to support more becoming coordinators of EU projects. Also important here in the end to mention, of course, is the information activities on the news. So newsletters on upcoming calls or launch of work programs. If there's anything happening on the budget side, for instance, the lump sum scheme that they started up last year, these kind of news on changing conditions or when things are coming up and so on and so forth. That's important if you are interested in these things, to attach yourself to these kind of newsletters and subscribe to make sure that you get these information, because it is the NCP's responsibility as an NCP organization to inform clear and in due time on these things, to make sure that everybody's updated in the country. Here in the end of this, the Grant Shorts episode, I can mention that also some NCP organizations, they have the possibility of applying for funding to write proposals. So in Danish context, you can apply for I think 10,000 euros. I forgot the exact figure, but you can apply for some money to support you with your proposal writing. And that money can, of course, go to private grants consultants to help you writing your proposal. That's the whole point, to get more proposals submitted to the commission from the individual country. And I know other countries, I've just seen Germany also does it. The Dutch also have a scheme to support local beneficiaries, making sure that more will send in applications and proposals. So no, that's it. That was the second episode in this first 3 set of episodes on starting out with my work as an NCP. And now here the second one on how you can use the NCP function. And then in the episode you listen to in a second, if you continue to listen, that's going to be with focus on the program committee work, or the program committee function, and how we can use that, because that was also part of what I did. So, dear listener, thank you for listening to the end, and hope you enjoyed these shorter episodes, and see you in a sec in the program committee part. Bye.
The grass